Yes, not being heard. People not acknowledging when they've done something wrong. Mm. Colleagues being manipulative and micromanagers. True. All of these things. And I'm sure we could go on. Thank you for sharing. Um, all of these things are certainly universal in many ways. So why do we get angry? You told us about the things that make you mad. Oh, sorry, Mario. It will be, so just a reminder for anybody who's missed this, that it is being recorded and you'll be able to listen to it through the capconnection.ca and then hopefully join again next week. So why do we get angry? Really, I see a lot of the reasons here. So when there are things happening and people aren't responding to us in a way and over issues that are important to us, it can make us feel angry or hurt or unheard, which often can lead back to anger. That's that unmet expectation, right? So this often leads us when those unmet expectations or perceived injustice or something isn't fair, we tend to blame others instead of looking in to see why is it that their behavior caused me to feel angry. So frustration of unmet goals. When we feel disappointed or sad, or if you look on to the next line, the hurt and the embarrassment and the humiliation, those feelings are really not pleasant feelings to have, and they often make us feel weak. And it's easier to be angry, which tends to feel powerful. Somebody said once, I think I read once, that we judge ourselves by our intentions and we judge others by their actions. So we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. So sometimes people do things with no intent of hurting, but they do. We are hurt, and the intention wasn't there. So personal attack, that can, and it can motivate us to deal with a situation. But if we aren't careful and don't manage the anger in a way that's healthy, it can lead to aggression. So the question I have, and traumatic events and stressful events, which is really what's going on worldwide now, can someone else make you angry? What do you think? If they know your triggers. You're saying, some people are saying no, and other people are saying if they know your triggers. Buddha says nobody pushes our buttons, we allow our buttons to be pushed. You are responsible for your own thoughts. Try and avoid the situation and ignore it. Maybe involuntary. True. All of these things. So when we think about it, a lot of times when people and meditate, yeah, we can do something to try and manage it. But sometimes when people do things, it can cause us to feel anger. But a lot of times what I find is that people say, if you hadn't done, or if you had done, or if you didn't do this, or if he didn't do whatever, then I wouldn't be angry. And the bottom line is when we allow people to decide what emotion we are going to feel, then we give away our power. So listen, I understand, especially for anybody who has kids, or if we drive or anything, it's hard. It's easy. It's not hard to be triggered by some of the things that you see and or are experiencing. But ultimately, we do have a choice over how we respond. And it's important for us all to remember that someone else doesn't have control over that and cannot make us be angry. I love this statement. Anyone can become angry. That's easy, but to be angry with the right person to the right degree at the right time for the right purpose and in the right way, that's not easy. So what do you think might happen if you never expressed your anger? Build up and explode, bottles up, and explodes, and you can't control it. It could lead to depression. You could get sick. Exactly. Yep, and it hurts you. It boils inside, then eventually bursts. Absolutely. All of those things. So people can express their anger through words, through actions. It will come out all at once in one form or another. Yeah. So again, all of our expression of anger or any emotion for that matter could be expressed through movement, through words, through actions, through art, any number of ways. So how do you express your anger in healthy ways? At the gym, journaling, good. PT, talk it through, talk about it, running, yoga, all of these are wonderful. There's lots of different ways. Cardio and sweat it out. So we know that there can be positive results from anger. So some of the constructive functions of anger. So it can tell us that we have needs that just aren't being met. So that's positive. It allows us to reassess and to maybe make a change. It can persevere in the face of frustration or injustice. So I think of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It can help us activate some of our psychological resources and protect our self-esteem, even if we're afraid. We might create personal boundaries. It can help us to resolve a conflict. We'll go for a workout to think things over, and then after we'll try talking it out, and most of the time issues get resolved. Exactly. So some of these things that you're doing are releasing that tension and re-energizing and giving us some positive energy. So that helps us ultimately take action and move forward and solve the problem and deal with it positively. So can it be difficult to express your feelings in a way that others can hear? Taking a course to learn proper coping skills and expressing the correct emotions and learning to properly communicate those emotions. Absolutely. How do we communicate in a way that allow other people to hear? Without hurting, okay? Carefully. It can be one of those very tread lightly things, especially if it's an emotional trigger and it's a relationship that's important to you. So there's some things that we want to think about. Are there certain aspects of our lives that we can renew as a result of constructive anger? Or, what is my anger telling me? So these are things that we can think about and self-reflect, and hopefully through some of the handouts, you will think about that over the next week. Replace you with I when expressing it. Tackle a problem, not the person. Wonderful. Wife and I speak with emotion first, but try and look past the emotion and what they were saying. Yeah, get a third party to meet. Absolutely. All of these are truly wonderful. So we talked a little bit about the positives of anger. Anger can also be destructive. So it can be destructive when people become aggressive or rumination. That's that. I liken that to the little mouse that's on the treadmill and just going in a circle and going and going and going, and they're not going anywhere. So when we have a thought that just never goes anywhere and doesn't change, that's rumination, especially if it's causing us to feel a great deal of anger or other, distressing emotions. Anger can be destructive when it's used to stop the stress of experiencing some of those other unpleasant emotions that we talked about earlier. So we do, and I remember our subject matter expert in Ottawa when we did the course, when we first learned it many years ago. She talked about anger externalized can become violence and aggression, and anger internalized can cause depression and health problems and communication difficulties. So we want to find ways to maintain our respect for ourselves and with regards to other people. Anger can also be used for things like status and power and control, a very strategically use as opposed to emotional expression. We see that certainly in things like politics. So keeping in mind that anger is an emotion, and it gives us feedback on our perceptions on what's going around us. We know that anger can become a problem, though. It can become a problem when it's our main response. When, it's too intense, we can't seem to control it, or we have trouble letting go, or it's happening in situations that are completely inappropriate. Somebody yells at somebody else in front of their work colleagues, for example. It can be a problem when it is negatively impacting our relationships, or if it leads to aggression, or you just can't let it go. So some questions that come to mind for me is anger impacting your relationships at work or at home? When you're angry, do you then, after being angry, feel badly about your anger or guilty or embarrassed about your behavior? Is anger making you sick? So are you getting migraines or stomach aches or things like IBS, for example? Is anger not allowing you to enjoy your life or be in the moment? And I guess ultimately, is anger driving your thoughts? This is where it starts to become a problem. So keeping in mind that anger is an emotion and emotions are not benign. So as you think, so your body responds. And when we see chronic anger, we see that it can increase susceptibility to things like colds or the flu. It can cause, the body is so cool. It can increase your cholesterol levels. It can increase the intensity of your pain. It can contribute to cardiovascular disease and anxiety and depression. So, has anybody felt, when you reflect on your life, have you been mad about something or angry with someone for a long time? Because ultimately, we have to think about the damage that it's doing us when we hold on to that anger. Like, thank you for sharing. It happens. So what's underneath your anger? And this is just something for you to reflect on. If you were to ask somebody who knows you really well, really knows you, what would they say they thought was the source of your anger? So keeping that in mind, I do have one more handout for you. 10 tips on ways to cope and how to manage your anger. And you talked about a number of things earlier on. You talked about working out and you talked about humor. We do need to try and manage it, but ultimately, my suggestion to you is to know and is to encourage you to know when to seek help. And it's never a bad thing. You know, small irritations are like I always think of the princess and the pea. You know, it's like a pea under the mattress. But if you have it for a long, long time, sometimes it just eventually you need to ask for help. So things like counting to 10 and walking away. I saw you say those things earlier on. So I know you're already using them. One thing that we might do is find a way to manage those emotions in the moment that allow us to come back and be assertive with the things that we're needing or creating boundaries or whatever that looks like for you in the moment. So what can we do? Sometimes this is about mindfulness, walking away and find something. So I happen to live not too far from the Bay of Quinte, and going down by the water and looking out over the water and listening to the birds and all of those things are very soothing for me. What is soothing for you? Might be about breathing. It might be a guided visualization, playing guitar, playing Animal Crossing, yin yoga, keeping busy, playing with my dog, quiet corner with my book, hike in nature, being right there actually. Oh, nice, yes. Gardening and reading, getting outside, finding hobbies, video games and escaping, cleaning, yes, hanging out with my dog, fishing. Oh, bless you, I can't do fishing. Nobody will ever take me fishing. I did it once and they're like, you're not invited back. But I always wish I could. Yeah, all of these things are important. You know, visualizations and mindfulness are a really important part of being healthy and well. And podcasts, love that. I have my children listen to podcasts all the time. We know that, let's be clear, when we talk about visualization, my husband said to me one time, you're not talking about that free hugging hippie stuff, are you? So you're not, when we talk about meditation and visualization, we're not talking about chanting or levitating or being able to sit cross-legged. And listen, meditation isn't for everybody. So if it's not for you, then being mindful can be very, very helpful. But ultimately, it's the thing that works for you. So as we get close to the wrapping this up, I want to remind you of some resources that are available for you. We have the Canadian Forces Member Assistance Program, which or AKA CIFMAP. We have Canada's Suicide Hotline. We have information on COVID. We have the Family Information Line and the Sexual Misconduct Response Center. There is a Kids Help Phone and the ARC line in support of COVID. So any of these and all of these are available again on CAF Connection. I would like to remind you to think about what anger management, good anger management looks like for me. And as we think about what you're going to focus on over the next week, I'm reminded of a book that I had to read for one of my jobs a lifetime ago, and it was called In Search of Excellence. And note that it's not called In Search of Perfection. It's called In Search of Excellence. So this is not about beating yourself up every time something doesn't go exactly the way you wanted. Sometimes, I got this from my friend Sharon in Kingston. Um, Sometimes you just need to sit down and think about the problem. Think about what you want to focus on for the next 7 days. Don't expect to never feel angry. Focus on what you're thinking and saying and doing when you feel angry. Um, Try and find a way to be less reactive, and that might mean just taking a couple of deep breaths, and remember that no one makes you angry. So just want to let you know that next week, our topics will be anger, stress, and mental fitness when we're talking about anger and managing our angry moments. If anybody has a question, I'm more than happy to chit chat. Otherwise, I want to thank you all so much for participating. I have 2 questions. Wonderful. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Krista. Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to hang out if you have questions. Thank you, Mario. Can we get a handout with those great motivational pics you put in? The PowerPoint, this PowerPoint presentation will be up on CAF Connection. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy. Love the dog photo. Stole that from Sharon in Kingston. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you all. Oh, good question about certificate of attendance. I don't know, Ilana. I don't know how that works. You know what? Are you coming back, Ilana, are you coming back next week? We will ask. So I'll find out. I'll ask Ottawa. I'll ask Health Promotion Ottawa, SDF, and we'll find out how we do that, and how they get certificates of attendance. Is that all right? And we can let you know next week? Yes. So can we let you know next week? Ilana, is that okay? Or do you need to know sooner? I don't know if someone asked if the previous webinar, the answer is no for now. We don't know at this stage. Okay. Yeah, I will ask again and just find out, because some of the other courses, some of the other seminars were single sessions, and because this is 6 weeks, they might have something different. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think there must be a way to do it. I will ask. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I don't have the answer for that right now. Okay. We'll see you next week. Absolutely. I totally understand, especially with the 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. You may need to register. We'll have to find out. I'll have to find out. There must be a way to manage that. Alrighty. Thanks, Melissa. Nice to see you too. Bye, everybody. Take care. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.